sometimes people talk about how narcissism is not in the Bible or narcissism isn't there at all. And so I wanted to be able to bring this up today. So we're going to be talking a little bit about the Bible. So if you don't like that, you can stop watching now. But otherwise, we're going to jump in and we're going to talk about a passage in 2 Peter chapter 2, actually talking through some stuff that matches up a lot. I was reading the other day and I was like, whoa, like this matches up a lot to narcissism. If you guys are new here, my name is Ben Taylor. I'm a self-aware narcissist on this channel to provide awareness, growth, healing, change, and develop. Those are also the 5 stages of healing that we work with people with raw motivations to help them progressively move forward to the place where they're out of the relationship, they're out of the toxicity, they're out of the locked-in trauma bond that they have in their mind, and they're thriving and moving forward. So we're excited to be able to do that. If you like what you see here talking about narcissism, narcissistic abuse, my journey in narcissism, hit subscribe, hit that notification so you get notified when we drop new content because we'd love to have you part of the community. All right, so diving in. A lot of times people say the Bible doesn't speak about narcissism. Okay, and we want to be able to dive in, and I'm going to show you from 2 Peter chapter 2. Okay, I'm not going to go through and reading it a bunch, but I'm going to go through and pulling out different words and phrases that I read while I was doing it and starting to write it down. Now, typically when we're talking about it in the Bible, a lot of times we see this aspect of false teachers, people that are deceiving other people, and it's amazing because those people look very much like narcissists. They probably were. A lot of times they have the same attributes, the same styles and things like that. So we're going to look at some of that. And then this idea of like, how are you going to continue moving forward? Of like, what are you actually going to look like? And how are you going to know, are you going to be, I guess like the phrase really I'm looking for is, will you be overcome? Okay, overcome by the toxicity, overcome by the lies. All right, so diving in, 2 Peter 2, you can look it up on your own, but it goes through and it talks through this one section. It starts off talking about the false teachers being irrational animals. Now with this, it kind of like stuck out to me. I was like, whoa, like that makes a lot of sense because there's like this compulsion. There's like this compulsive behavior of like, I want what I want, when I want it, no matter what. Like it's this idea of just like, let me do whatever I want to do. Like in the moment, like let me do what I want. It's this idea of like being instinctual, of the self-preservation of like lying. It's just like constant because it doesn't matter. All that it matters is like myself in that moment. And you see the narcissist that's like constantly just putting stuff out there, like lying and lying and lying and lying and not caring because of the fact that they're more consumed with themselves, they're more consumed with the mask that they've created than they are with being honest and truthful and actually growing from that. So it becomes something that is an instinct, like almost like a self-preservation, and it just happens. This is someone who is constantly hiding from the truth. We see this time and time again with narcissism is developing a false reality to suit my needs, developing a false perception to suit the image that I'm trying to put out there for other people. Like that is the thought process, that is the goal. And as a result, they are irrational a lot of times. Irrational is like, wait a second, like that didn't even happen. That reality doesn't even exist. But it's very compulsive. It's just going to keep happening because they only care about what they want, about how they look, about all those things coming back to them. Okay? Goes on to talk in the passage of mocking the things that they do not know of. You've probably had these times when you've been interacting with a narcissist and you know something that you're talking about. Maybe you know something about work, or you know something about like politics, or you know something about nuclear engineering, like whatever it might be. Like you know something that they don't know. And you're probably made to feel a little stupid about it. Well, a lot of times like they make it switch around to belittle and to be able to put you down. I was talking to somebody the other day trying to explain the concept of how a narcissist thinks that if they get with someone, they'll be so much greater, and then they're not, and so then they have to bring them down. You might be elite at what you do in business, and the narcissist gets with you thinking, oh, I'm going to be elite too. I'm going to be amazing and awesome. And they get with you and they realize, oh, crap, I'm not. I'm still the same person that I was before. So now I need to bring this person down to my level so that I feel better about myself. We see that time and time again with looks, with money, with image, with status, whatever you want to call it. We see a lot of times narcissists will bring people down to try to feel better about themselves. And so with this, they'll mock the things they don't know of. And as a result, their lies will be destroyed in their own destruction. Like, it talks about this aspect of, like, they're going to continue to lie. Like, those things are going to get completely destroyed because people are going to see and understand, like, wait a second, that's not even true. And a lot of times they're going to run their own destruction. Okay? So many times people are too concerned about, but I want to get them back. I want to revenge. I want to figure this out. I want to avenge myself and my hurt. And it's going to happen eventually. Okay, and I don't say that to put you down or to make your feelings feel low, but so many times people focus so much on getting back at the narcissist, they never get their own healing. One of the things in the passage, it says that they revel in the daytime. Okay, now when we're talking about this, like if you deconstruct it a little bit more, it's this idea of like doing all the things like during the day that's not necessarily acceptable to human values. Now we're not just talking about like going out and having a drink. Like we're talking about like getting drunk. We're talking about like destroying things. We're talking about this idea of like ignoring the basic human values and just acting for themselves. Okay, like that's the concept here. And with this, there's this aspect too of being happy in their deceptions. So it's really interesting. It talks about like revel in the daytime and like interacting with another person. And it gives this concept of being happy in the deceptions while they eat with you. This is like the aspect of like this person is lying to you, lying to your face while they're still eating with you. They're lying to your face while they're still planning your vacation. They're lying to your face while they're still planning moving into this house, while they're still building a house with you, and they don't care anything about you. But they're lying, and sometimes they're enjoying the high of the deception, the high of the lie to be able to tell you and to get away with it. But it's talking about this idea of being happy to deceive you, of enjoying it. It goes on to say they have eyes full of adultery. And this is like the idea of like looking for other people to be with. Sounds pretty applicable to a lot of narcissists, right? They're looking for something to be able to fill them up. And the thing is, it's insatiable. Like it is not able. You cannot fill or quench the void that is inside a narcissist by another person, by sex, by money, by image. You can't do it. And so many times a narcissist will continue to try over and over and over again because they're unwilling to be honest about what's actually going on inside. And so they keep trying. They'll go from person to person to person. They'll get rid of you and go to the next person. They'll continue to move forward thinking maybe the next person, maybe the next person, maybe the next person. Never once thinking that it could be themselves. The other phrase that was in this passage that really like shot out to me was this concept of entice unsteady souls. And when I heard that, it resonated a lot with me because a lot of times I talk to people that it's not money, it's not image, it's not status, it's not your empathicness that you have or anything like that that attracts the narcissist to you. It's the fact that typically you don't know who you are. A lot of times you don't know ultimately who you are and the direction you're going. And as a result, a narcissist comes into your life and shifts your focus. That continues to move you out of the way, out of the direction that you want to go. Initially hearing me say that, you might be thinking, no, like they didn't really do that. Who are you going to be before them? What path were you on before the narcissist pulled you to the side? What certifications were you going after? What job were you looking for? What desire did you have before you got sidelined by being with a toxic person? Because so many times the narcissist will come into your life and will entice people that do not know who they are, looking for people that are lost and don't have boundaries and don't have things that they've set up in place to understand this is unhealthy. And they suck you in. And they get you to a place that you no longer know who you are and you no longer know how to get out. And as a result, you are left confused and in the fog. Goes on to say that they're trained in greed, money, image, sex, all those things. Like, I have to have it. It gives the idea of waterless springs, which I thought was amazing because it's empty, shallow. It's someone that doesn't have that depth to them because they say, oh, I'm here, but they're actually not. They say, oh, I'm engaged, but they're actually not. Oh, I'm faithful, but they're actually not. Oh, I'm truthful, but they're actually not. It goes on to say even more, they prey on the weak. They prey on the people who just started to understand concepts of life, or in this sentence, it's talking about like people that are newly saved, because it's talking about false teachers, but it's talking about like the people that don't know. And those people like barely get free from the narcissist, barely get free from those false teachers. And you need to understand there's this concept that narcissists bring out. There's this concept that false teachers bring out as we correlate this, the concept of freedom that they give to you. Of you can actually be better with me. You could be better with this narcissist. You could be better because of X, Y, and Z. But there is no freedom there because it is all about them. And you start to see that as they pull you in, as they suck you in and get you completely confused, and you're left wondering, how do I get free? I thought I was signing up for the best thing ever, my soulmate, the Disneyland experience. I thought I was getting this. And you realize that you didn't. Sometimes people get confused with narcissists and they think the narcissist is free, and that's absolutely false. Narcissist is a slave to their own corruption, to their own desires that are going to continue happening over and over and over again without them acknowledging who they are and what they're actually doing. And a lot of times they'll promise that freedom to you, and the freedom seems to be themselves, but they're a slave to that corruption. It overcomes them as a person, and they're enslaved to it. Sometimes you understand who the narcissist is. You understand what's going on. You start to realize, you start to see the trauma bond, and then you go back. I'm using the same type of passage idea, then you're overcome by that other person. The toxic abuse gets worse. It happens worse. You start to struggle worse. So the question for you today is, are you going to be overcome? Because this thing that happens a lot of times is when you know the toxicity, when you get to the place where you see the light and you're like, I know this person's toxic, but I still want them. But you know that, and you separate or you get away, and then you go back. A lot of times when you've had that glimpse or that taste of how good it was without the narcissist and you go back, it not only gets worse as far as the abuse or the emotional manipulation, but it also gets worse for you mentally, because you're at a place you're like, I knew this. I was able to be free and I went back. If that's some of the pain points that you have today that you're struggling with, of the negative self-talk or of going back or of struggling with wanting to go back, please reach out for help. We meet with people every single day to try to help them get free mentally and emotionally, because those are the things that suck people back into toxic relationships. If you're struggling with that, reach out for help. You go to rawmotivation.com, you can click on any of the links in the bio, anything like that, just to be able to get you on the right path moving forward in your healing, in your growth, in your change, and ultimately developing you into being the thriver that you're called to be.